Did you know when you said earlier you've been writing basically the Regency
Mm,
romances, and then obviously you've then moved on to, I say, to the Gothic historical
yeah,
fiction
yeah.
and this horror genre that you're now in. When when Bridgerton, I don't know why I'm laughing, but when
No, no, no.
Bridgerton,
I wrote a book. I wrote a book on Queen Charlotte that came out in 2014, and nobody wanted it. And then when Queen Charlotte
oh God,
Netflix came out, everybody's buying Julia Quinn's book on Queen Charlotte. And there's although it hurt, I was very smug because I was like, well, look, there's the audience for it. You all said there was no audience. They're right there. Um, but
but
yeah,
what do you
yeah.
do in those moments? Do you go back? Did you ever think like going back and okay, I'm gonna write more Regency romance, or I'm gonna push the Regency romance books I wrote before? Because it would, I think it would be. He said it can be a bit. I'm a bit smug, like I did this before, but then it can also be like, really, are you not taking the mick? Like I wrote these books, and now Netflix has a whole Bridgerton. You know, they've even got Bridgerton makeup.
To be honest, that's been my whole experience of the industry in general. Like, you flog a dead horse and then you finally give up and then someone succeeds with it and you're like, wow, sucks for me.
This is the thing which it goes back to, is like you can't predict trends. And
No,
I think the worst, not the worst thing, probably too strong a word, but it's not advisable to write to trends because you just don't know what is going to become a trend.
absolutely not. And I think it's really difficult for agents as well and publishers signing you up because they don't know what's going to happen. They just have to sign up a book that they really love, I think, because I did have one person come back to me on the Silent Companions that said, we I love this kind of book, but it's not going to sell enough to warrant you ever writing a second book. And here I am on doing, that was my best selling book. Here I am writing a prequel to it. Obviously they were wrong, but
Yeah.
given the state of the market at the time, I don't really blame them for that response because it was a rational enough response given what was selling at the time. Um, yeah, we're all just pretending we know what we're doing out here.
No, we don't. Because I remember when I wrote The Jigsaw Man, even though I was doing it, it was basically started off as an assignment on my
Mm.
course. But I do remember thinking there are no serial killer thrillers anymore. Like they just, like they just weren't. It was because I think it was like the height of the
Yeah.
domestic psychological thrillers. So
Yes.
The Girl on the Trains and Gone Girls, it was at that height. So I thought this, and I wasn't seeing the serial killer thriller books. I
No,
thought,
and you're like,
oh,
oh God, no one's going to buy this now because it's not set
well,
in a house. Yeah.
exactly. So there was a bit of that, no one's gonna buy it. And then there was a bit of, well, no one's writing about serial killers. I'm gonna write about a serial killer. And by the time I'd finished the book, sold the book, and when the book got published in 2021, there were serial killer thriller books all over the place. So you just,
Yeah. You don't know, do you?
no.
It's I think that's why we say so much of it is based on luck as well as talent, because
Mm,
it really is, whether you've managed to capture the zeitgeist and it hits at the right moment. It's really a matter of luck. So I think, by all means look at the market, but you need to write something you're passionate about as
yeah.
well, and just keep everything crossed that it'll be your time and your turn. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't get Queen Charlotte, but it works out for Julia Quinn, didn't it?
And who knows what's on the horizon? Who knows who could come knocking on
Exactly,
your door?
exactly.
But God, I had a question for you and it completely went out of my head.
That's all
What
right.
I was
Take a
going
sip of
to
water.
it will come to me. I'll ask this question instead whilst the other question comes back to me. Laura, when did you know you was a storyteller?
That's a really good question, actually. And I think it was probably about age 14, 15. I knew that I wanted to tell stories. It wasn't until a bit later that I actually realised I was good at it. And I think, some of that was due to the work I put in to be good at it. But I think when I was, originally submitting to agents and I was getting things rejecting, people were saying to me, I think you're a natural storyteller. You're
Mm.
telling these stories. And when I had those stories of like the Georgian women that I said that I wanted to share with others, I did realize that actually I can communicate what I love about these people and their lives to others. And, I can try and make them feel their emotions. I can sort of tap into that. And that was in my early 20s that I kind of realized that. But you know yourself, being a writer, you never actually think you're any good, and
No.
there's always there's always the book you wanted to write. I think that's the thing. You judge all your books not against what actually is produced; it's what was in your head and whether you've matched up to that or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, despite constantly receiving information to the contrary, I'm still in my head like, really need to improve as a writer, really need to work on my craft. That's always what's in my head, is that I need to improve and get better. But in a way, I think that's good, because it keeps you learning, keeps you moving forward. But yeah, I think the more I'm doing of writing and the more I'm being out in public talking about writing, is that I realise that I am a storyteller. In the written word, that I don't, in the real world, I'm not as great at communicating. I find it hard to articulate things. I find it hard to participate in society. I want to tell stories. That's me.
But telling stories is how you participate in society, though. Because I always feel that whether you're writing, whatever genre you're writing in, it should reflect in some way, even if you're writing historical, because you can look back at what took place in the past, and you can see how similar themes are taking place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's political. It's your way of contributing to the greater conversation. But I think I communicate most strongly in stories, and I think of the world in stories. It's a funny old thing, but things like the theatre and computer games, they all tell stories. So I think it must have been around then when I sort of realised my life was going to be in books, if that makes sense. And I started working in a bookshop as my first weekend job. That's where I met my husband.
Bookshop was it?
Yeah.
What bookshop were you working in?
Waterstones in Chelmsford, which there is still a Waterstones in Chelmsford, but the one that me and my husband worked at is no more now, sadly. It's gone.
Well, it's another thing you and I share. I've started working in a bookshop when I was at uni, and I was there for years. I think I was there all through uni, so that would have been 3 years. I did my master's still there.
Wow.
Did my conversion course. I think I might have been there for like 6 years, maybe.
Wow.
I loved it, and it was Books Etc.
Yeah, Books Etc. I remember them. Yeah.
I never wore my badge though. I always got in trouble. I was never wearing my badge.
Well, you were saying about apprenticeships, and again, I think that is another great apprenticeship for being a writer or working in publishing at all. I think is being on the shop floor selling books. Seeing what's selling, talking to readers, understanding buying habits. I think it's a great way in. And I have this theory that everybody that works in publishing should work in a bookshop for at least a year. I think
it's a good like character study. Like all the people who'd come into the bookshops, and I'd have when I was working in Canary Wharf, when I started working there, Canary Wharf wasn't like the shopping centre bit of it. It wasn't what it was
just
now.
Offices, really.
Yeah, it was literally just offices, the newspapers, the banks, and then there was us, Boots, the tailors, I think Tesco Express, and a version of, I'm saying HMV. Like an indie version of
right.
And and literally that was it. So I'd have my regular like customers coming on the Saturday morning. But one thing that always stuck out in my mind was the same things, like you can't predict a trend, and you can't really force people to buy a book. Because I remember when Harry Potter came out, you really can't. And I remember we weren't advertising it. Like there wasn't posters all over the place. There wasn't books, especially with the first book. There wasn't books in the windows at all.
No.
And I just remember there's a stream of parents coming in. Have you heard about Harry Potter? I've been hearing about this book, Harry Potter. Is this good? So it was like word of mouth. Eventually,
you're thinking, where has this come from? Like, is that just some person desperately spreading it?
Yeah. So it really made you think about, again, it's like, well, you can't write the trend, because there was no child wizards going off wizarding school. trend.
No one could predict that. And
No.
I think it's really interesting looking at it, showing my age, but when I was a bookseller, it was when the Richard and Judy book club very first started.
Yeah.
And that was on television then, it wasn't just a W.H. Smith thing like it is now. And just the response to that was phenomenal. But it was very much trying to get the sales around that, sort of saying, well, look, if you liked that, you might like this book because it's very similar. If you enjoyed this Richard and Judy book club pick, try this. But people were very much like, well, no, Richard and Judy have not told me to read that one, so I'm not going to. They would just read what they had been told to read. And I was like, this is strange.
You know what? But it makes me think because today's Wednesday when we record. So yesterday, the bookseller always releases like the charts, and I knew Dan Brown's book came out last
Dan
week.
Brown straight away.
Yeah, and I knew it was going to hit the top. There's like, of course, it's going to hit the top 10, and then it came in. It like sold 77,000 copies in the UK. I know in the UK. But I'll let you say what you're going to say, then I'll say my part.
No, I was going to say, you finish off first and then I'll go.
Well, I was going to say, but I think that's an example of, because the reviews that then came out, they weren't like, this is the best thing ever that's ever been written. They're very much like, well, if you liked the first one, you're going to like him. He's not the best writer in the world, but you're going to enjoy the story. And I was just thinking to myself, the man does not care. He's just writing the story that he wants to tell, and there's a market for it, and people are going to buy the book. And it didn't have, I don't think there weren't any proofs around. There were no, when they do reviews like months before, there was no like marketing build up to it. It was like, here's the book, it's coming out in September, Bob's your uncle.
But that's the thing, they kind of didn't need to. And that's the thing. When I was in bookselling, I was building towers of Dan Brown books. He was so popular when I was bookselling. So popular. We had so much stock. We were building art out of it, basically, on the shop floor, and it would sell and go down. And obviously those readers that did all that are still out there. As much as you could sort of look at the chart today and be like, oh, I don't see a kind of Dan Brown type book getting to the top. The readers that bought it in bulk, they're still out there, and they still like it. So no market, I don't think, is ever truly dead. If it's ever had a success, the readers are still floating around somewhere. They don't want some, romance. They want Dan Brown thriller, a popcorn kind of book. That's what I want to call it, a popcorn kind of book.
I remember, I don't know if we've gone to Dan Brown. Obviously, I brought up Dan Brown, but I remember
bookseller memories.
It's bookseller memories. But I remember, it was my first year as a qualified solicitor, and I always had a book on me. And one of the partners at the firm I worked for, his wife was an agent, and he saw my book. He saw me reading Dan Brown, because the same thing is everywhere, and you want to see why is it everywhere. And I enjoyed it. I was like, it's like Indiana Jones. This is how it felt to me, like Indiana, and I love Indiana Jones. And he pulled a face like, I can't believe you're reading that. And I'm like, but why?
Why not? It's fun. That's it. And look, there's a place for everything. Okay, there's a place for Michelin star rump steak, and there's a place for a McDonald's burger. They're
like
both
a nugget
products. Yeah. They're both the same products. One is exceptional quality, one is cheap and cheerful, but they each have their place. You want them at different times.
Yeah.
I don't think people should be snobby about what others are reading. If you're reading and you're enjoying it, that's brilliant.
I mean, I feel that. I don't think anyone should, because I've heard a lot of things. I don't know why. It's been a lot. Maybe I'm just more aware of it, more tuned to it. Been a lot of like commentary on, if you're reading this sort of book, then it's considered like it's less intelligent. So if you're reading crime, it's like low in the hierarchy. I think of literature, like they're placed like crime's like on the bottom, like with romance. Wow. And if you're taking 15 pages to describe an orange, then that is like highbrow literature. And I just think it's unfair, because the amount of work that writers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's it. I think the same amount of work goes into all of them, and you want different things for different times. I love literary fiction as well, but I wouldn't want to read only literary fiction. yeah, I think people just need to realise that there's nothing's inherently better, that you need books that make you think and you need books that entertain you. And some of them do both, which is brilliant. But they're all valid.
They are. Did the surprise of The Silent Companion, did the success of The Silent Companion, did it surprise you?
It did. It really did, because there wasn't sort of any indication to me that it was going to do like particularly well. Like we had a good launch. My publisher Raven Books were launching their imprint at the same time, so again I didn't really know what to expect. And the hardback did okay. It was doing sort of decent numbers, and I was like happy, but it didn't hit any charts or anything, so I wasn't like thinking I had a runaway success. But then when it appeared on the Radio 2 book club, and then it appeared on Zoe Ball book club, it suddenly took off. And again, it wasn't like a mad success by anyone's standards. I wasn't like this viral sensation, but it was just, doing nicely, and people wanted to hear what I was writing next. And I was like, this is great. I was surprised, because it was my first attempt at a Gothic novel. And as I'd said, I had people sort of saying, oh, this kind of book isn't really gonna sell loads. So yeah, it was a really pleasant surprise. But because of the writer's life that we were saying, the kind of the time that it took off and they wanted a lot of publicity from me was kind of at the time when I was finishing off edits on my next novel, and it's just very stressful. You were like, I'm done with that book. Why do you keep asking me about it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's hard, because even I always say, like, you've written your book, it's gone off to your editor, you've done your edits, and then but you have to start your next book. So you're writing your next book, and then you're having to stop because this other book, which you love, you care about. I'm not saying it's like an unwanted child, like you care about it, but it keeps coming back. It's like, I thought you left home. Why are you coming back with your washing? Like,
I'm done.
That's how it feels.
That is a perfect analogy. It really is. And because like this had come, I was prepared to talk about it a lot in hardback, but because the success came when it was in paperback, it did just feel like it had been so long.
Well, it is long when you think about when you started writing, when you sat down for that first time and wrote chapter 1, and then it's finally, it goes through the editing, goes through the proof stage, then it's released on hardback, and then it's released in part. That's a long time.
You're right, because I had the idea in 2014, and I think 2014 I started writing it, and the main publicity build up for it, where people started noticing it, was 2018. So I had this 4 years. So it's
a long time
scrabbling for.
But some people don't understand. Like, if you're not a writer, not in the industry, that, especially when you're then doing panels and you're being asked questions about the book. Like, I've said it more than once. I've forgotten characters, and I've got, some member of the audience standing up asking me questions about a character, and I'm like, I have no idea. In my head, I'm thinking, I have no idea who you're talking about. I can't remember them. And then, but eventually, it will click because it's so long.
I think what I find hardest about it is when people say, like, you get asked a lot about your writing experience and your writing process, which is something that I really struggle with, because for me, it's a lot of mad mishmash. I'm going through things, I'm multitasking, I'm not sitting there thinking I'm following a straight roadmap and what is my process.
So
when people sort of ask me to think back to the writing of this book, I'm sort of going over these hazy memories, being like, well, I was just trying to get it done, I wasn't setting out with this huge artistic vision. I was like, this is the story, I've got to get it working. And that's quite
a
hard.
Deadline, and someone wants it now.
I mean, that's not to say, I don't ever have artistic intent. I do, but it's hard to pull it out through all that, all the life admin, really.
I think that's the reality of the writing life, because I always think, I've said it 100 times, people listen to this podcast know, is that before you become a writer, like traditionally published or self-published, your whole view of the publishing industry, I always say, it's through Hallmark TV movie rose tinted glasses. It's so ridiculous, it's so artificial, And it's only when you're in it, you're like, no, this is not, like, you recognize it's a business and you see where you are in the business, but you see how there's so many different components to it. And I always think that as well, that your book 1 experience is completely different to your book 2 experience, and your book 2 experience is different to your book 5 experience. No book, it's not the same.
No, even the writing of them. And like, perhaps there are certain genres where you can maybe get a formula in place and you can kind of do a formulaic writing, but I am not in one of those genres, so I've never had stuff that has been useful on one book being that useful on another book.
Well, I don't even think, because I write series, and I don't even think when I'm writing the next book in a series, it's not easy, because my challenge is that I don't want it to come across as being formulaic. I don't want it to come across as if I'm just doing a copy and paste from book 2. So I'm always looking for new ways to make it different. I
suppose you have the challenge of writing a complete story in that book whilst also moving the general series along as well. It's
exactly,
you've got 2 stories to be thinking about, the contained one and the overarching story.
And also 2 different audiences, 2 different readers. I've got to think about the reader who's been there from day 1, and they remember things that I don't remember. But then I've got to think about the reader.
Fresh. Sorry.
Exactly.
Let me catch you up.
Yeah. And then there's the reader who they just discover me for the first time, and they might pick up a book out of sequence, so they're picking up book 4 instead of book 1. And you don't want to feel like, oh my God, there's all this stuff that they should know. So it's all these different things.
I would love a little section that we could have in the front of our books that say previously on, right? Like a TV series, and just a bullet points of things that you should remember.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Previously, in episode 9, series 1 of the Inspector Henley season.
Yeah, that's what we need.
I remember the question I was going to ask you. What I was going to say, when you're talking about secret projects, like, I always say I have got secret projects, but I always think it's important to have them, to give yourself, I think, in order to give yourself a challenge, but also to write without the pressure of the demand.
Yes, I think that's, people talk about writing as kind of a muscle that you need to keep working. And I think that's a way to do it, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I have kind of like stage fright. Like, I go into, writing something that I know is going to be read. It's a story that's been commissioned by me or something, and I'm kind of watching how I speak, if that makes sense. I'm rewording everything, going, oh no, it doesn't sound right enough, and I can get stuck on that. Whereas, what you have to do is just write through and then go back once you've got a first draft and work on the language, work on the clarity. But I do find that very easy to get stuck and be like, well, my tone is not spooky enough in this or something, and keep not being able to move forward because I think it doesn't sound right. And with the secret project, if no one's going to read it, you just talk, don't you? You just go for it.
You do. You just tell. I honestly think you just tell the story, and whatever way the story goes, you just follow it, because there's no external pressures on you.
Yeah. I think it's it's really nice to have that, and to be able to maybe say things that you don't say in your fiction that's going out into the world, and just get a better feel for your own voice, where there's no pressure on it. I think that's a great idea to have.
I've got I think I've spoken about it before. I've got a rom-com secret project, which is so completely opposite to what I write.
I love that. You're like, a serial killer by day, but in the evenings it's all lovey-dovey.
Thank you so much for watching this clip from the Conversation podcast. If you'd like to see the full episode, you can watch it right now here on my channel. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you'd like to catch up on more conversations, you'll find them linked on your screen now. And you can also listen to the podcast on your favourite platform. See you there. Bye.